about music you see, so stick with me and be all that you can be, and join me on a journey through music theory. Hi, I'm Mr. B, and today we're going to learn about the woodwind instruments. This is the woodwind family of instruments. Just like you have strings or percussion or brass, this is the woodwind family. So the woodwind family of instruments is a group of instruments that used to be made of wood. Most of them still are, but some of them are not made of wood anymore. But they're grouped into the same category because that's how you play them the same way. So a woodwind instrument usually has holes, like my recorder does here. It might be hard to see, but there's holes on my recorder. And you usually have some sort of mouthpiece that you blow into, or like in the case of a flute, you blow across. So a woodwind musician is using his or her own breath to power the instrument. So you blow into the instrument, and then you use the holes to change the way the air comes out of the instrument, and that changes the note that you get. Okay, so woodwind instruments have a mouthpiece, and some of them have pieces of wood called reeds. We'll get into that later. You blow into it, and you use your fingers to cover up holes, which change the sound. Most of the instruments we're going to learn about today are the orchestral woodwind instruments, things like clarinet and oboe and bassoon, but there are other woodwind instruments around the world that we might take a look at too. So let's get started. Hi again, I'm Mr. B, and today we're learning about the woodwind family of instruments. The first woodwind I want to talk about is called a piccolo. A piccolo is a very small version of a flute. So you're going to see this piccolo player play the flute, and you'll notice how small it is. It's very even hard to hold because it's so small. Let's listen to the piccolo. So the piccolo is the smallest woodwind instrument, and it's also the highest woodwind instrument. You'll notice that in music, usually the smaller instruments make the higher sounds. So that was the piccolo. And the piccolo is a small version of the flute. Now you might be more familiar with the flute. The flute is the woodwind instrument that's made of metal. So this is not made of wood anymore, but it used to be made of wood. So you'll notice that the flute is held on the side of the face instead of out in front of you. That's also unique in woodwind instruments. So the flute and the piccolo are the two woodwind instruments that you hold on the side of your mouth. And the flute is rather high as well, but it's not quite as high as the piccolo. Let's listen to the flute. All right, so there was an example of the flute, and you'll notice that the flute has these little pads on it. They're called keys. Here, it's easier to see here. So the piccolo also has the keys. These little white parts are called keys, and you press those down, and they cover the holes in the flute, which changes where the air comes out, and it changes the sound. Another orchestral woodwind instrument is called the oboe. Now the oboe is special because it has a special kind of reed. The reed is the wooden part that sticks out at the top. And the reed on an oboe and a bassoon, the instrument down here that we'll look at later, they both have a double reed, which means there's two pieces of wood in the mouthpiece instead of just one. So let's listen to an oboe. And you'll notice the oboe also had the little keys as well that she presses down to play. One instrument that's a little rare is called an English horn. It's similar to an oboe, but you can know an English horn because it has this egg-shaped bulge at the end. The next one we want to talk about is a clarinet. A clarinet is similar to an oboe, but the reed is different. The reed looks like this, and it's just a single piece of wood. So instead of the oboe and the bassoon, which has a double reed, this only has a single reed. And here's what a clarinet sounds like. So that was the clarinet. And let's look at the bassoon. Now the bassoon is a bigger instrument, it's lower, and it has this strange looking mouthpiece, this kind of hook-shaped mouthpiece that comes out. And when someone plays the bassoon, they put that mouthpiece in their mouth like this, and it has a double reed, just like the oboe. Let's listen to the bassoon. And the next instrument is called a contrabassoon. It's definitely bigger and longer than an actual bassoon, and it plays lower notes. Let's take a look at that. So that was the first section of the woodwind family. Those are the instruments that are most common in orchestras that you might see on an orchestra stage. And the next instruments we're going to look at aren't usually included in an orchestra, but they're still considered woodwind instruments. The most popular of these next group of instruments in America is the saxophone. So normally a saxophone isn't included in a normal orchestra, but it can play lots of different kinds of music, including jazz and classical. So let's take a look at a saxophone player. So the saxophone also has a single reed, kind of like a clarinet, and the musician will put that part of the mouthpiece into their mouth to play, and it also has keys. And saxophones usually have this shiny exterior, usually in a golden color, or some of them are silver. Here's some other woodwind instruments that you might not think about. Bagpipes are actually woodwind instruments because you do play into them. So you blow into the bag part of a bagpipe, and then the player squeezes his elbow to push some of the air through the instrument and covers up holes on the chanter part, which is this part right here. And this is what a bagpipe sounds like. And the next instrument is a harmonica. You may not think of a harmonica as a woodwind instrument, but you do blow into it across some reeds that are inside the instrument. The next instrument is the recorder, which I already showed you and played for you. And the next instrument is called a penny whistle. It's usually played in Ireland. One of my favorite woodwind instruments is called a pan pipe, or it's also called the pan flute. So one thing you notice on the flute and the pan flute, I forgot to show you, is that the musician blows across a hole. They don't actually put the instrument into their mouth, but they blow across the instrument. So you can see that here, and you can also see that here. So the musician is blowing across the top of the hole. It's kind of like blowing into a water bottle, and I'll show you that at the end of this video. Okay, and there's one more I wanted to show you. I wanted you to see this Chinese flute. Okay, so I wanted to show you how the flute and the pan flute work. And you can do this with any water bottle that you have. Any plastic water bottle works for this, and some other kind of bottles will work too. Usually one with a kind of a narrow ending where the water comes out. So I'm just going to use this water bottle to show you. So what you do is you place your lips on the side of the bottle cap, not the cap, but the bottle, the top of the bottle, and you blow across. You don't want to blow in like this. That won't make much of a sound. You want to actually blow your breath across. You have to like almost cut through the top of this, and you aim it like that. And you can experiment with different water levels. If I had more water in this water bottle, the sound would be higher because there would be less room for the air to vibrate. But since I've drank a lot of the water in this bottle, it's very low, so it's making a low sound. So that's how you would make a sound with a flute or a pan flute, by blowing across the hole like this. Thanks for watching my video about the Woodwind family. Bye. I'm Mr. B. If you like what you see, please subscribe to me.